Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I am Jen Sugarmeyer, your host of Mindset in the Morning, and we are here live 5 days a week at 6 a.m. Central Standard Time. But because it's YouTube, you can tune in whenever you would like. And here we talk about the holy trinity of health. Well, one of the pillars: mind, body, soul. And we know that we need to work out. We know that we need to meditate and do our soul food, whatever that may look like for you. But the mind, don't know what we're doing for our mind. And it is just as important as the body and the soul. So here we talk about the mind, but it's not a woo woo, these topics that are way far out there. We normalize things here on the show and talk about everyday things. Like today, we're going to be talking about trust. Trust comes up all the time. So we talk about things that come up in our daily lives. And why? So that when they come up, because they will, because life is very dynamic and there's always something going on, whether you turn on the news, whether you just walk in from a long day, or you go into the office, or you're driving somewhere. Craziness can always happen. And when you know what to expect, when you know how to navigate the chaos, then you can bob and weave with ease. It's so easy to turn on the news and just get paralyzed, because that's what the news is. They leave like 30 seconds for good stories. Other than that, it's like all the chaos that's going on, and they just keep talking about it and talking about it. It's never ending. And that's what life is. There's just so many crazy things. So I want you to show up as powerfully as you want to be every single day. And the way that you do that is through the mind. So today we're going to be talking about trust, and we're going to talk about 5 ways that you can increase the trust within yourself. And we actually talked about this yesterday on the show. And for whatever reason, even though we did mic checks in the morning, the sound didn't come through. So took that down. So if this is your second time, you didn't miss out on anything. We're just going to repeat of yesterday. I guess you didn't hear it. I don't know if you could hear it live or not. I have no idea. But anyway, took that down because it didn't show up. So hopefully you're hearing me today. Otherwise, if not, you could just observe my new pretty necklace that I got for $2.99. Thank you, Mom. So trust. Trust is actually one of the definitions of confidence. And when we have trust within ourselves, then we are able to do so much more. I mean, think about it. If you didn't trust yourself, would you put yourself out there to go do something, to go try something? If you didn't trust that you were able or capable, would you do it? But when you are able to trust who you are, there we go. When you're able to trust who you are and what you can do, what you can't do, then you can take that and propel you. That fuels your actions. So trust is so important to have within ourselves. It's also important to have with other people. We don't just go around just giving our heart to everyone and putting trust in everybody. I remember when I used to work in corporate America, and I was doing vendor management for the last, I don't know, 4 years or so. And actually, I probably did it for about 10 years. But I would have to interview the vendors and see what services they would provide, because we would get a contract and we'd make sure everything was in there. But I had to have a trust with these vendors in order for me to think about spending any level of money, because I didn't care if you just had a product. I wanted to trust that it was going to serve our needs. So that's great if it sounds good on paper, but you need to show me. You need to be able to communicate with me. There are so many things that I was looking for, that within that process is how I would determine if that was somebody that we were going to work with or not. So it was through this relationship building through trust that we were able to determine who we wanted to work with. It wasn't just anybody that walked in the door. And trust me, I sometimes felt I didn't, this is a side note, but I didn't have my voicemail set up for 8 years, because I would get so many phone calls, because I was the woman that you needed to call in order to make a sale. And there are tons of salespeople out there. So I disabled my voicemail because everybody would call me. I felt like my name was written on a bathroom stall. Like, if you want a sale, call Jen Sugarmeyer. It was unbelievable. So I had so many people contacting me. So you had to go through a rigorous evaluation in order for me to want to do business with you. And rigorous was sometimes just us sitting down and having a conversation because I wanted to see, I wanted to feel. So I give you that little example because that is how we start to gain trust with other people. We don't just give it out. Now, there are some people that come in and they said something really smooth, really quickly, and you're like, I trust you. I trust you. But there's some level of qualification that you've done to get to that point. Like, what is it that makes you trust this person? Is it how they look? Is it what they said? Maybe you know some history about them, even though you've never met them. There's something that you've said, okay, trust, here you go. We don't usually just hand that out. And if you do, maybe this is also a really good talk for you because everything we're going to be talking about here, you can apply to other people as well, because not everybody's trustworthy out there. Trust me on that. Okay. All right. So here are the things. We're going to talk about 5 things. And these are what you need to do with yourself in order to elevate the trust within yourself. But also, mind you, this is for other people as well. But we're going to specifically talk about how do we start to trust ourselves more so that we feel more confident as we're going out into the world and being, whatever that may be, so that we have more confidence within ourselves. But you can also apply these to other people. Okay. Communication. Have effective communication with yourself. This will help you to trust yourself more. Communication is one of these things that I actually had a talk with this communication expert. I'm going to bring her on my podcast. I spoke with her yesterday, and she and I had a good conversation because I didn't know she was a communication expert when we started talking. And that's what she does with her clients. And I said, man, communication is one of these things that's really been driving me crazy lately because I think as a society, we've become more passive aggressive. And I'm just a direct communicator. And it surprises people sometimes when they hear direct communication, it almost sounds aggressive. Now, I'm very careful with my words. Doesn't mean that I'm always right. It doesn't. Absolutely. But I try to be very careful with my words, give it some time before I say something, but I don't want to fester on anything. Just let it ooh, I don't like the situation. So, hey, let's talk about it. This is an opportunity for us to improve. And a lot of people these days are like, whoa, I'd rather be passive aggressive. But how do you get to the root of anything when you're not directly talking to anything? You're just dancing around things. Oh, I'm too scared to say something because I just don't want anything to come out of that. So we get very passive in the way that we communicate with people. And then I don't really know what you want. If you're not telling me directly, if you say, no, I don't want a birthday party. No. And then after your birthday party, you say, yeah, I really wanted one. Or after your birthday, you say, yeah, I really wanted a birthday party. Like, how the heck am I supposed to know? I'm not a mind reader. So in general, whether this is with yourself or with other people, let's start to have direct conversation and stop thinking that people should be mind readers. Now, you're not having this conversation with yourself and saying, oh, well, I think she should be a mind reader. Just practice direct communication. What is it that you want? Have that real conversation with yourself. What is it that you need? What are you feeling? Have these direct conversations so that you know. And then when you get out and you set out to do something, be specific. What are you set out to accomplish? What is it that you are trying to do? What is your vision behind this? So instead of just going out and just doing or being on both sides of the fence, wishy-washy, draw a line in the sand and say, this is what I want. This is what I need. Because we know what we need. You ever stand in front of the refrigerator and you're like, what am I feeling? Something salty. That's it. Like your body will tell you what it is that you need. You'll figure that out, but you got to get quiet. So pretend like you're standing in front of that refrigerator and going, do I want 7 Up or do I want Coke? Do I want a light soda or a dark soda? A light soda. That's what I want. And allow that communication to just flow through you. So that's one. Secondly, build your trust gradually. I want you to start to celebrate every single step along the way. I know sometimes we get so focused on what that end state goal is. And we say, oh, I'm going to pop the champagne or I'm going to celebrate and do something big at the end. And that's great. Do that. But don't forget those little steps along the way. That's where you're going to gain confidence. The truth is, we can't control what's happening in the future. And you may say, I have this goal of accomplishing whatever it is in 5 months. Well, 5 months comes and goes, 6 months, 7 months, maybe a year and a half comes and goes. If you are still waiting to celebrate your wins and it's been a year and a half, that's going to start to eat at you. Oh, am I a failure? You know, all these things, which by the way, failure doesn't exist. And we've taken that word out of our vocabulary. We'll talk about it here again on the show, but we've talked about it in the past. But you start to question yourself and maybe you don't even trust yourself as much. You said, man, I was going to do this in 5 months. I was specific about that. It's 5 months. And now it's been a year and a half. Well, the way you can gain your trust with yourself, even when your timetables are slipping and things like that, because it happens. It could be completely out of your control, or maybe it was within your control and things just changed. But celebrate each one of the wins along the way. When I jumped out and I became an entrepreneur, I went from doing a lot of things in the boardroom and managing millions of dollars and saving millions of dollars and doing all of the things to learning how to upload a picture onto Instagram and get followers. And I'm like, are you serious, Jen? Is this all you're doing these days? So I had to learn to celebrate the small things so that I felt good about what I was doing, so that I started to trust myself along the way. If I waited until my business was where I wanted it to be for me to say, now I can celebrate, it would have taken years. I would have not felt good about myself. I would have lost that hope, that faith. So celebrate yourself along the way. Trust takes time, but don't wait for the big things. Celebrate every single day. Say, hey, that was a good job. You learned something new. Hey, that was a great deliverable. Look, because we have little small deliverables along the way. Whatever it is, celebrate you along the way. All right. Make decisions carefully. All right. Look, this is me looking in the mirror, saying this to myself, make some decisions carefully. I have a history of just jumping into things. I am very like, let's do this, think through some things. And that's not to say that that's always a bad, way to be, but think through some things. Think what it will look like long-term. Think about the road to get there. What are you going to need in order to accomplish whatever it is? Who is going to be involved? Do you have the financial resources in order to do that? What are the steps? And look, you may not be able to map out everything. I have a big project underway right now. And honestly, I don't know. I have to have a lot of faith with this project because I don't know how it's going to come about. But I've thought through a lot of the different pieces, ways to get funding, things like that. So although I don't know every single step, I've thought about it from a lot of different angles. I've done my research. I've talked to people. Whatever that may be. So the way you can start to learn to trust yourself and have that trust within yourself is doing some research, because then you'll be able to eliminate some of these things that you get involved in that might not work out the way that you think that they will, because maybe you were able to catch some of those, it's not going to work out because things. Maybe you'll be able to catch those things in advance because you did just a little bit of research, had a few conversations, whatever it was, you road mapped it out and you were like, yeah, No, I don't think so. I'm not going to be committed to this thing for 2 years. This thing looks like it'll take 2 years. And even then, there are unforeseens, and you don't know if it's really going to take 2 years. It may take longer, whatever that may look like for you. Instead of just jumping in, do a little bit of research. Because when we have these wins in our life, which we should now, as we know from point number two, we need to be celebrating these things every day. That's how we start to trust ourselves. That's how we gain that confidence within ourselves. Oh, look, I could do this. Oh, I could do this. Oh, look, I'm making it happen. I'm in motion. Yes, every single little step of the way. But when things don't work out the way that we think that they're going to, sometimes that's counter to what we're trying to achieve. Sometimes we lose confidence, we lose trust within ourselves. So do a little bit of due diligence and try to catch those things in advance before they happen so that you aren't jumping into something, it doesn't work out, and you're losing that confidence within yourself because nothing ever works out. Nothing. Just take a little bit of time and go through the motions ahead of time. So be consistent. Be consistent. Have you ever met somebody, and maybe this is you, and they show up, let's say in the office, and they're going through something one day, and this is their personality. And then they show up another day, and this is their personality. And then they show up another day, and this is their personality because they have so much that's going on with them personally. And so you just don't know which one to expect. I've managed there's at least one lady that comes to mind, and it was a challenge to say the least, whereas I would say for the most part she was pretty consistent. But there were those days and I just didn't know what to expect, and sometimes she just stopped showing up into the office and stopped answering her emails, and then she would come in and she was like, I'm getting all the work done super fast. And then she'd come in some days and it was like, I'm just going to be really chill and we're just moving along and chugging. And I'm like, I don't know which one to expect. It's hard for me as a manager to manage this. Now, granted, there's a whole lot of other things going on. There was mental health, all that kind of stuff. But when you are consistent with yourself, then you know what to expect and you know how to manage. It's not like which person, how am I going to be? What's going to be happening these days? If you remain consistent with yourself, then you'll start to understand and trust that person. Oh, I know that when I wake up, this happens. I know before I go to bed, this happens. I know when, and you understand, you're able to profile yourself. This is me. Yeah, I have my days where, whatever, I get sick. And so things just aren't quite the same. But you are able to manage your life better because you know what to expect. So work on being consistent. And that could look like when a situation comes up, how did I handle this last time? If you are making up new rules every single time with how you respond to things, with how you react to things, then maybe that's your sign that you need to just dig in a little bit and say, how do I make this a little more consistent within my life? All right. And lastly, you got to be honest with yourself. And we talk about honesty a lot because if you are not being honest with yourself and what you need, with what you want, with your goals, with all of those things, then what are we doing? If you can't be honest with you, then who are you honest with? I mean, can you be honest with anybody? I know I struggled with this for a long time. So all these things that we talked about today are things that I've had to learn myself. And I also have had to go through. And sometimes it can be weird to have those conversations with yourself. But no one's asking for you to get on a megaphone and have this honest, like, this is what's going on with me conversation. Just get quiet and say, what is it that I need? And I know, especially for women, we're such givers. Maybe you're taking care of your family and your kids and all these things. And you're like, that's fine. I just have to take care of them. And I'm going to shove myself under a rug. I want you to ask yourself the honest questions. What's going on with you? What do you need? What do you want? We don't want to shove things under the rug, because when you have a full cup, when you are whole, you are able to help other people at a higher level. So it doesn't do anybody any service. There was a statistic, and I'll leave you with this, that happy employees are 12% more productive. So we are not doing anything by shoving things under the rug and not addressing them. Because when we're happy, we're more productive. Statistics show that. So we're able to help other people more. We're able to be there for our employer. We are better as people. So start to get honest with yourself. And when you do, you'll be able to increase and enhance that trust within yourself. So that's it for the day. 5 simple steps on how to increase your confidence. That's communicate. So learn to communicate with yourself, build your trust gradually, and celebrate your wins all along the way. Make careful decisions. Don't just jump on into them. Be consistent and be honest. And I will see you back here tomorrow. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you back here tomorrow. And if you know anybody that needs to hear this message, why don't you pass it along to them? Because that's what this is all about. All ships rise with the tide. So let's help each other. I'll see you back here tomorrow. Same time, same place. Cheers.